Can I move to the presentation itself, Cecil?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Okay, so why we want to discuss this topic today? So basically, we see that many of our patients, they are bedbound uh, or wheelchair bound also. Okay, so it's very important that they should not develop a pressure sore. It is said in nursing that if the patient develops a pressure sore, then it is nurses are at the fault. Okay, so that happens many a times in hospital where nurses are directly involved in the care of patient. Okay, but in palliative care setting, many of the patients are at home. Okay, so what to do at that time, how to prevent, and if at all they develop, then what to do. That's all we are going to discuss today. So basically, we as nurses are directly involved in the care of the patient. Okay. In palliative care patients, we are supposed to teach the carers how to do about things. Okay. And it is maximum effort is taken that the patients have most comfortable life in whichever days are remaining with them. So it is our utmost duty that we should handle this carefully. So definition, it is given as the injury to skin and tissue underneath, usually caused by unrelieved pressure. Okay, and why it is important in palliative care. So as we said that mainly it is the nurse who is responsible to give maximum comfort to the patient. Okay, and the very nature of palliative care patient is such that they are very easily they can develop pressure sore. Okay, so we should not forget the causes of the pressure sores. So let's move to that. So first and foremost cause is pressure. Okay. Majority of the patients in palliative care, we find them are in a debilitated state. They are bedbound or in the wheelchair for long time. They remain in the same position. So what happens that if the wrinkles are there in the bed or they are taking food also in the bed itself, so there may be many food particles in the bed, okay, and the patient would be lying on the same thing. So there is constant pressure on elbows also many times, on heels many times, especially when they are put up in slightly propped up position. So it is said that it takes only 6 hours to start pressure sore, but it can take a very long time to heal. Okay. And if the pressure is of 60 to 70 mm of Hg for more than 2 hours, it is uh, just a small thing, but it can cause this tissue destruction and can lead to a major problem. Second reason will be friction. Okay, so that can cause abrasion of the skin layer, that is a stratum corneum. Okay, so when the clothing and bedding, they rub against the skin of patient, it takes place. Many times we are changing bed linen and we try to pull out the bed sheet or draw sheet or anything which is lying below the patient. This will cause a major friction. As well as there is shear force. Okay, so that is force which is parallel to skin. Okay, so two surfaces are moving in opposite direction. For example, if the patient is in propped up position, okay, and what happens in this position, that patient will slide down. Okay, so these two surfaces are in opposite direction. So the same force will cause injury in the patient skin, and it can lead to a major bed sore. Now let us see about the risk factors which are necessary or which can cause bed sore to occur. Okay, many of the patients are having sensory perception is impaired. Okay, so in them, it is a major problem. Patient cannot identify what is hurting him. Many times he is not able to tell what is hurting him, and we are not able to identify the problem and not able to remove the cause. Many times patients are having impaired physical mobility. Okay, so in such condition also, it is very easy that the pressure sore will be developed. Altered level of consciousness. Again, the patient is not able to identify, and we are also unable to identify the problem. Fecal and urinary incontinence. So here the patient will be lying in a soggy, humid atmosphere. Okay, and it is again one of the major cause of development of the bed sore. A patient may be having altered mental status, including delirium and dementia. So patient will be in confusion, and so that can lead a problem. Other things are like malnutrition, then dehydration, edema, patient is anemic, or hypoxia is there, hypotension is there. All these things are such that the patient is very much liable to get bed sore. If it is hot season and body is excessively heat, so at that time also this can occur. Advanced age, again, there is no cushioning of the tissues. Okay, so they are more prone to develop bed sore. And of course, the known medical conditions like diabetes and cardiovascular. In diabetes, we see many times neuropathy. Okay, so they are having more and more problem, and ulcers are becoming non-healing type. In cardiovascular disease also, the circulation is compromised. So tissue regeneration is very slow, and then there is non-healing of ulcers. Okay, so these are some of the very major risk factors which can develop pressure sore. So nurses always should watch out for them. Let us see pathophysiology in short. So all these risk factors, they will act on the areas of soft tissue, okay, which are overlying especially over the bony prominences, okay, where the fatty tissues are less, cushioning is less. Okay, so when this pressure exceeds normal capillary pressure, what happens is that there is occlusion and tearing of small blood vessels. Okay, this will lead to reduced tissue perfusion, and this in further it will lead to ischemic necrosis, or we can say pressure sore. Okay, so we should see that the last step doesn't take place. Okay, so all the sequence that come into action, we have to break the chain at one point of time so that the final step doesn't take place. Okay, now we all remember this various stages of bed sore. Okay, so but let us have one quick look at each of the stages. So first stage is of erythema. Okay, so what happens here? That there is intact skin, okay, and it presents with non-blanchable erythema of a localized area, usually over a bony prominence. Okay, so there is a small portion of discoloration. It may be warm compared to the surrounding tissue. Okay, sometimes there may be edema and pain also may be present. Okay, so when we see this change in the skin at any bony prominence, we can put the person at risk, okay, to develop further problem. Though this involves only epidermal layer of the skin. Stage 2 is partial thickness skin loss, or it is blister stage. Okay, so here there will be a shallow open ulcer with red pink wound bed. Okay, and it may not have any slough. Okay, so the epidermis and dermis are damaged, and the ulcer is also referred to as abrasion, and it is painful. Okay, you can see in the figure also. Stage 3 is full thickness skin loss. Okay, here we can see even fat. Okay, so subcutaneous fat is visible, but the bone, tendon, or muscle is not exposed yet. Okay, so involved layers are epidermis, dermis, and subcutaneous tissues. Subcutaneous tissues have poor blood supply. Okay, so it becomes difficult at this stage for the ulcer to heal. Okay, and necrosis will occur easily. Fourth stage is full thickness loss. Okay, so it is the deepest and extending into muscle, tendon, or even bone can be seen. Here you can see in the figure. Okay, and there is total breakdown of supporting tissue also, as you can see the person's lower limb here. There is another stage also that is unstageable, okay, where you cannot identify the depth, how much depth is involved, and very hard to diagnose because bottom of the sore is generally covered by slough or eschar. Okay, so becomes very, very difficult to identify which stage it is. It may look, color may look like yellow, green, brown, or even black because of the slough. Okay, so one has to be very, very careful, and in this particular stage, surgical intervention may be required. So we don't want patient to go into this. Okay. Now, if the patient has gone into it, what can happen? More complications will occur, like cellulitis. Okay, that is inflammation of soft tissue can take place. If the bedsore has reached to bone, okay, and if there is joint, okay, then infection will take place and immobility will be there. Okay, bone infection, you can imagine what would happen to the patient. Okay, sepsis can also occur. The infection will enter into blood vessels and it can lead to the septicemia also. Okay, so it is our primary aim that the pressure should be relieved and complications should never be reached. Okay, so that should be the utmost goal. Okay, so skin care and pressure points care is very important in the prevention aspect. Okay, so what to do? So these are some of the headings under which we will be looking going to some details. First is general hygiene. Second is change of position every 2 hourly, providing wrinkle-free bed, avoid shear and friction, regular inspection of pressure points. Okay, so what all to do in them? Okay, so care of skin, we need to keep the skin supple. Okay, so what to do? Daily, we all try to give, and we teach patients, relatives also, how to give bed bath. Okay, because the patient is bed bound. So how to give bed bath? We do teach them, and we should see that the carers at least do a few, you can say, they show on patient how they are doing. This is also very much important, so that if they are making some mistake, we can correct them and patient will not suffer. Okay, so after the bed bath is over, generally what we learn is that apply talcum powder. Okay, but in palliative care, it is always seen that we avoid using talcum powder. Instead, use moisturizer and keep the skin moisturized. Okay, it should not be too much also, and it should not be too less also. Okay, immediately after bed bath, if it is applied, okay, then it is good, because the moisturizer will be able, I mean, we can spread it very well, okay, rather than applying on the dry skin. So it should always be applied immediately after bath. And the skin should be dried by petting, not by rubbing vigorously. We can use petroleum jelly and any moisturizer, or even the coconut oil is also good. If we are using soap, then it should be seen that it is mild soap. Okay, water should be warm. We all know how much the temperature should be. Okay, soap should be removed completely. These things are very important. Then this here you can see that patient is turned from side to side. Okay, so you will give active and passive exercise to the patient. Patient will get some physiotherapy. Recreational therapy is also good, because patient's mind will also remain active. Okay, it also serves as diversional therapy. Okay, so it is very good. Ideally, the patient should be in semi-Fowler's position. Okay, elevating head at 30 degree. Okay, so that is good enough. If the patient is more than 30 degree, then the patient will slip down. So there will be pressure on elbows and ankle joint and all. So we should be very careful. Here we can see that which are the pressure points. Okay, if the patient is in supine position, which are the pressure points? If the patient is in lying down, then what happens? And in the prone position. Okay, so all these pressure points, we have to be very careful. And changing of position when patient is lying down in bed is at least once in 2 hours. And if the patient is in wheelchair, then every 15 minutes patient position should be changed. So which are the pressure points in when the patient is in wheelchair? We can see in this figure on the right side. Okay, so that care should be taken. And what to do? Okay, so we can place soft cloths, whatever is available with patient at home. They can place under these tough points of body. Okay, many times it is seen that if the patient is in, say, for example, Fowler's position, then previously rings were used. Okay, but many times it happens that the hard rubber ring can cause venous stasis also. Okay, so instead we can use soft clothes which are available at home easily. So it can be prevented. Many times in hospital, we use gloves filled with water also, which is placed under the heels and ankle. So that can be easier to manage also. Then comes massaging. So directly massage over the tissues which are already damaged should be avoided. Okay, so one has to be very careful in this while teaching the carers. Passive stretching of each joint at least 10 times twice a day. It is very helpful. It will also help in preventing atrophy and contracture, and plus deep vein thrombosis also can be prevented. Positioning of pillows between joints, especially when the patient is placed in the sideline position. That is very much essential. So when the patient is in sideline position, the lower limb should be little straight. Okay, and the leg above is between them. A small pillow can be placed, soft pillow can be placed, so that there is no rubbing of the knee joint over the lower limb. So this is important. We have seen this type of mattresses used, right? So they are easily available in the hospital. Okay, like air mattress and water mattress. Even there are sponges like egg crate are also available. Okay, so in hospital they are very good. But what about the poor patients when they are at home and they cannot afford? Okay, so at that time, the best thing is that we, as we discussed, all the preventive aspects in the uh, slides before this. Okay, there are many agencies also which provide these type of mattresses either free or at very nominal rent. Okay, so nurses should know who are providing what, so that we can always advise the carers from where to whom they have to approach for this type of facilities. Okay, but this is not the final solution. Always we have to be careful and tell the carers also that only by placing the patient over this type of fancy mattresses, our care is not ending there. Okay, all the changing of the position and everything, all type of skin care should be continued. Okay, this is just one extra preventive measure. Okay. In spite of all these, our preventive measures and things, if the patient is developing pressure, so, okay, so what to do? Okay. So with proper treatment, it is possible that we can heal the pressure sore. Okay, and pressure sore healing will depend on these three main things. That is general health and diet of the patient, relieving of pressure on the sore, and careful cleaning and dressing of the sore. So how to take care of pressure sore? Okay. So first and foremost is cleaning of the sore. So cleaning is generally done with the normal saline. So what is normal saline? In hospital, we will easily open up a pint of normal saline and start cleaning. Okay, what about home? So we can teach the carer how to make normal saline at home. Okay, so they can boil 1 liter of water and add 2 teaspoons of salt and boil it nicely and preserve the solution in a clean bottle. That is very important. Okay, so what to do with this solution? Okay, so they have to clean the dead tissue, remove them. Pus also should be removed very gently. Okay, it should not be rubbed very vigorously. Otherwise, whatever the granulation tissues have come up, they will injure that also, and the purpose will not serve. Okay, so this should be remembered. Never to use any hydrogen peroxide or betadine, because they many times cause more problem rather than solving the problem. So that is always advised. Use moist dressing material. Okay, it will help in preventing granulation tissues while changing dressing. Okay, so for this, what to do after the dressing, I mean, after the cleaning, what we have to do is apply good amount of Vaseline over the sore. Okay, so this will help in the keeping the sore, I mean, it will not turn dry. Okay, and when we are removing next day, again, it will not be dried. Okay, so it helps. And Vaseline has good healing power also. Okay, and it will, the tissue underneath will get good blood circulation, which is very essential for the healing of the sore. Many places they use papaya leaves also, raw papaya and aloe vera pulp. Okay, so these things are also helpful in keeping and healing the sore. So at many rural communities also it is used. Pain is a major problem while changing dressing. Okay, so extra dose of, say for example, if the patient is having taking morphine, then 30 minutes before the dressing, it should be given. If the patient is having any other painkillers, then our timing of the dressing should be like that, that it comes after the patient takes the painkiller. Okay, so the care should be taken in that way, and similar things should be taught to the carer also. Next is nutrition. We all know that healthy diet is very, very important for the skin, okay, to remain in healthy condition. So similarly, for our palliative care patients also, if he or she takes healthy diet, it is very beneficial. And it will help in regeneration of the tissues. It will also help in early fast healing. Okay, so what kind of diet should be taken by the patient? Okay, so all the extra protein should be there. The vitamins are also important. Okay, so care should be taken that whatever is available at local level, we should advise. And we should know the sources of vitamins, which local food substance is providing what, that we should know. Even zinc is also good for the healing. And of course, vitamin C, A, and E are helpful in good skin tissues, healthy tissues. So all the beans, nuts, whole grains, dairy products, okay, even garlic, spinach is also good. Adequate hydration is important for good tissue integrity. At least 8 to 10 glasses of water in a day are good. And if the conditions are hot, then even more intake should be advised. Along with water, if they can take a good, say for example, buttermilk or juices of various fruits, then that is also beneficial. Smoking is one major problem everywhere. Okay, so the patient has to quit smoking Okay, so that is essential, and he should understand the reason why it is harmful for him. Okay, so he should be told that the smoking hinders healing and it causes tiny vessels to constrict or narrow. Okay, so that cuts off the blood flow to the tissues, and the injured tissues will not get blood flow, so it will lead into complication. So this should be told to him very clearly. Exercise are very, very important. Daily exercise will improve circulation, and it will also prevent any type of contractures if the bed sore is at the joint level. Okay, so these are very beneficial also for early healing. Controlling incontinence. Okay, so appropriate measures should be used, like catheter if the patient is dribbling continuously. Okay, so that can be used. And we know when to change the catheter, right? Foley's catheter once a month. If silicone catheter is then once in 3 months is essential. Uh, then many times patient may be affordable for diapers, may not be affordable to diapers. Okay, plus diapers will also cause its own problems, like lot of perspiration will be there. Patient will develop diaper rashes. Okay, many times patient develops fungal infection also. So these things should be prevented. So instead, the patient can be asked to use old soft clothes. So that is many times it can be a better option, we can say. Then if the person is getting secondary infections, then oral antibiotics may be given. Education of caregiver is very, very important, because when the person is giving care, hand hygiene is very essential. Carers' own problems should also be taken care of. Okay. Many times it happens that only one person is taking care of a patient all the time. So all those things also should be seen. If at all surgical repair is required, skin grafting and all, then nurses are responsible to give pre-operative care and post-operative care. So at that time, of course, the patient will be in hospital. So things should be taken care of. There are many other treatment options, like nowadays hyperbaric oxygen is also used. Okay, so what is there? So here the oxygen is 100% oxygen is given at higher atmospheric pressure. Okay, so we know that oxygen is good for the tissue healing. So this is beneficial. Then there is other thing like topical use of human growth factors also. They also are responsible for good cell metabolism during wound healing. So that is also used. Okay, so let us summarize what we have seen in this talk, that the nurse should be continuously assessing client who is at risk. Okay, and what to assess. There are assessment criteria also. So let us see them. Okay, any predisposing factors which are for which the patient is prone to develop bed sore. Skin condition should be checked at least twice a day. Pressure source sites should be checked. Palpate the skin for any increased amount of warmth. Okay. Inspect for dry skin, moist skin, any breaks in the skin. Evaluate the patient's ability to move, circulatory status, what is their peripheral pulses are available or not. Okay. You can feel them or not, whether there is any edema. assess for neurovascular status, determine presence of incontinence, evaluate nutritional and hydration status, and any other comorbidities. Okay, and never to forget about the pain assessment. Okay, so this is Braden scale. You might be knowing. Okay, so here also the risk factors are given: sensory perception, moisture, activity, mobility, nutrition, friction and shear. All the points, whatever we discussed, the same things are given with the points, how many points to be given. And then put the patient in categories of severe risk, high risk, moderate risk, and mild risk, and act accordingly. Okay, so nurse's role we can put up in several headings, like interventions for a patient with decreased sensory perception, what to do. Okay, then interventions for patient with incontinence, what to do. Okay, all the points which we have discussed, they are put up here in very short sentences. And for avoiding friction and shear, what to do. And patient who is having less activity or mobility, what to do. And poor nutrition, what should be done. Evaluate the ulcer and progress every 4 to 6 days. And ideally it should be measured with the scale, and also it can be photographed, so that if the patient is at home and we are at the center, then we can have with the photograph, we can assess, we can judge whether it has improved or not. And of course, the secondary level, when the surgeon is taking or handling the case, and education of the family, what to do. And as nurses, we should never forget to document everything, whether home care or in the hospital. Not to forget documenting is very essential. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna. Any questions regarding this session? So Anna already a few questions in the chat box. Can you able to see this, Anna?
No, ma'am. No.
No.
Can you tell me?
Yes, yes. The first question is how much time we have to boil warm the homemade saline. So you're talking about that homemade saline, how to make the homemade saline.
After it starts boiling 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah. So only the boiled water is needed for this. So we need to understand that this is not a sterile wound. This is a clean wound. Clean saline is enough for wound cleaning. So that's why we instruct the patient to make homemade saline. So you can take that boiled water. After boiling, you have to stop the one, and then you can add the 2 teaspoons of common salt. That is enough. Okay. And the next question. Use only normal saline for cleaning all types of bed sore.
Yes, yes. Okay, I can see how to change position of patient on wheelchair. That is there. So many times patient is, I mean, generally patient is leaning to one side many times, or when we are putting patient in wheelchair, many times he slips down. Okay, so padding between the knees and the wheelchair is also important, because the popliteal area is more prone to the injury, as well as buttocks also. So soft padding can be done. So that will have, and plus the elbows where the patient is having support. So that also is important. Moving in the wheelchair also. Not for long period of time, not in fixed same position. That is there. Honey is also used. That is also good. That mainly we have in the fungating wound, no, ma'am? Shiva.
Yes, I don't have any experience on that, but that few of the nurses and doctors were sharing their experience. Honey is one of the good medication for removing the the necrotic tissues. So
Hyperbaric oxygen, which I have read, is patient is kept in the chamber. So that is how it is provided. That's what I have read in the book.
Okay.
Not personal experience.
Okay. Any other comments on that participant side? Any other comments on using of honey? Do you have any experience on that?
No, ma'am.
No.
Metronidazole is used that we will discuss in the fungating wounds, that helps in reduction of offensive smell and all that. We will discuss in that session.
So usually that bed sore also, here we are using metronidazole. Metronidazole is one of the drug of choice of anaerobic bacterial infection. So you can use metronidazole for this, even for this stage 4 or stage 3 ulcer. If there is any infection there, you have to apply metronidazole. So before, one question is Vaseline, how to apply Vaseline on that wound. Here nowadays, before we usually clean with some that betadine or whatever the solution, normal saline. After that, you can keep the wound dry. But nowadays, the literature says you have to give a moisturizing effect to the wound. The moisture is one of the important factor for wound healing. So what we do it here is we can take white petroleum jelly and add metronidazole powder and make it a jelly form, and then apply on the wound. So that time that wound will give help the two effect. One is the white petroleum jelly will give a moisturizing effect, and metronidazole will reduce the infection also. Okay, so that's why we manage the wound here.
And what about papaya leaves, ma'am?
Papaya leaves also some of the doctors and nurses they're using, but here we don't have any experience on that. What about Anna? Do you have any experience?
We also don't use in rural areas. No, they have their own way of applying. So what they do, they cover the wound with that papaya leaves, and then I think I don't know, it might be generally it is considered as providing heat or generating heat in the tissue. So I think it might be removing all the pus cells and everything. So it is helpful. I have also heard that in rural areas, they generally cover the area and then put the bandage over it.
Yes. So Sita Ali says in GPH we use honey to remove slough for better granulation. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other questions?
Why, ma'am, we can't use the powder? It is gives dryness.
Powder makes the skin more dry, and the dry skin can crack very easily. So that is the principle in palliative care, that we don't allow skin to dry.
If the Vaseline else, if anything, we are using moisture things also, sometimes it is touching
Too
the...
much, yes, that's what I said. Too much of moisture is also not good. So the skin should be just, enough supple. It should not be too dry. It should not become too wet also, because both ways. So according to the weather, we have to take care of the skin.
Thank you, ma'am.
So while we changing the position, you after you changing the position, you have to apply any moisturizing cream, white petroleum jelly or even coconut oil also. So if you apply a moisturizing cream properly, that will help too. If there is any small friction there, that won't affect the skin. So that's why we encourage the patient caregivers for applying moisturizing cream. Okay. And powder, as madam said, powder will that increase the dryness, and if there is a dryness there, definitely there is a chance of cracking the skin.
But it gives freshness, no, ma'am. Sometimes when you will give after giving the sponge bath, anything, no, some freshness also.
You can apply on the patient's face, but not on the patient's body. Because if you apply powder on the patient's back, what happens if the patient is getting more sweat? What is the after effect? The powder will mix with the sweat, the over sweat that make it pasty form, and then what happened? Next, you don't give adequate back care to the patient. I have some experience on that. So never apply the powder on the patient body. They usually, if you tell the caregivers to apply powder on their skin, they don't know how much quantity they should apply on their skin. They all pour a lot of powder on their bed. Okay, so finally what happened is it will attach the skin. So after 1 week, if you give a proper back care to the patients, definitely the first skin, that dermis layer will peel off. So, don't use a powder. It's my experience. Now you should not encourage the caregivers and the patient to use powder. And what about others? Do you have any experience like that? So what about vinegar? Is it good for wounds? Do you have any experience, ma'am? Anjali?
No.
Anna, do you have any experience? Yes. Vinegar?
No, ma'am. With vinegar, we don't use here.
Yes. Anjali sir? Okay. Any other questions? So in our hospital, we also used vinegar for smelly in pus wound. Okay. So Harishankar, sorry, some network issue. Tell me something about Karaya powder. So Karaya powder, Anna, do you want to answer on this question?
Karaya powder is generally mixed with the egg white, no, ma'am?
Yes,
And
yes.
for especially for the stomach care, it is used.
Yes.
So that the bag will, and excoriation of the skin will not be there, and the bag will also be sticking properly to the skin.
Usually the Karaya, we have a session on that, colostomy care. That time we will discuss more about that. But the Karaya powder, especially this made it from the Karaya plant. We got it as a powder form. We usually use excoriation of skin, like colostomy, ostomy area. If there is an excoriation there, we can apply Karaya powder. So instead of zinc oxide. So if you can take a Karaya powder and mix with the white portion of the egg, and then you can apply on the excoriation skin part. That will help to if there is a barrier between the skin and the wafer. Wafer means the colostomy appliances. So this is the on protein content is there. So that Karaya powder that will help to reduce the infection. So that is why we use Karaya powder for excoriation of wound. If Karaya powder is not available, you can use you can apply zinc oxide. Okay. Okay. I think we have learned many things today. So especially while we take care of a bedbound patient, this is one of the major problem. We all know that prevention is better than cure. So if there is a bedbound patient there, you have to educate the caregivers and the patients and about the changing of position, especially the how to develop pressures or the pathophysiology. You have to keep in mind the pathophysiology of pressure ulcer, and then you have to tell the caregivers and the patient about the importance of changing of position. Okay, and just a small tip that you can keep in mind: skin. Okay, the first S is supporting surface. If there is any bedbound patient there, you have to give any supporting surface. Okay, so that is the first S. And the second S is skin inspection. Each time we change the position, you have to give a special attention, especially on the bony prominence. Okay, if there is any color change there, you can give a special attention on that area and prevent further pressure on that area. Okay, if there is any pressure on that for that area, definitely the skin will damage. As madam said, the first stage is non-blanchable erythema. If there is a non-blanchable erythema there, you should not give further pressure on that area. Okay, so skin inspection is also very important. The third one is double S, we already covered. The next is K. K is keep moving. Moving is you only have to change the position. Okay, and I is incontinence care. If there is an incontinence, bowel or bladder incontinence there, try to, if they bowel or bladder incontinence there, you can put a catheter if the patient is billing. Otherwise, you can educate the caregivers. If there is any moisture there, they need to change the sheets as soon as possible. So this is one of the major cause of pressure. So that important thing you need to convey with them. And the last one is nutrition. N is nutrition. Okay, so nutrition is also very, very important. Even if even you change the position 2 to 4 hours early, after that the patients develop pressure ulcer, maybe because of poor nutrition. So daily protein intake in their diet is also very, very important. So just to keep in mind, skin. Okay, and usually we suggest air mattress and water mattress for this type of patients. Even if the patient is in water mattress or air mattress, they need to change the position. We don't have any evidence on that the air mattress or that water mattress is 100% pressure sore prevention. Okay, so that will help to so we can use it as a pressure relieving techniques that mattresses. Okay, so even that important message you have to convey with the caregivers. Otherwise, they may think, okay, this will take care of everything. Okay, so we can move on to the case presentation. Sister Marilyn will be presenting the patient story today. Sister Marilyn?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. Oh, to you.
Sister Marilyn, you can start your presentation, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening. I am Merlin Nancy Deepa, charge nurse in Christian Medical College and working as a charge nurse in hemato and oncology ward. Next slide, please. My patient name is X. His age is 64 years. Gender male. Diagnosis CA buccal mucosa. Next. Patients presenting complaints. Patient having weakness, weight loss, excessive oral secretions, difficulty in swallowing, that bad odor and not able to speak. Next. History of illness. Patient is apparently healthy a year ago when he suddenly having pain, swelling over the right cheek, weakness and difficulty in swallowing. So patient went to nearby hospital where he underwent investigations and diagnosed as CA buccal mucosa, for which he undergone local excision and given NG feeds and 2 cycles of chemotherapy, had radiation also. Later, he referred to our hospital for palliative care because when he went that time itself, the the wound was disease was spread. So he referred to our hospital for palliative care. He was in mild pain, foul smell, secretions, and difficulty in swallowing. The patient has fungating malignant tumor also, wound in the right cheek, having purulent macerated odor. The length of the wound is 4 centimeter and the width also 4 to 5 centimeter and deep, some 2 centimeter deep. So the patient has a bad smell and that continuous oozing water. We need to change the dressing frequently. Next. So on examination, the temperature is normal 98.4 and the saturation is 99%, and the pulse is 98 per minute, BP 100/70, and respiration 18 to 20 beats per minute. His general appearance, he looks very weak, bedbound, oozing from the wound area. And this CNS oriented to place and time, mouth, excessive oral secretion, coated tongue, dryness of mouth, and abdomen, soft bowel sounds present, but not able to swallow. Due to that, he is not able to take anything orally. Next one. Treatment and significant investigation. Patient had undergone surgery and 2 cycles of chemotherapy and had radiation also. During his tooth extraction only in August 2019, he had tooth extraction also. That time he developed pain. And in psychosocial aspects, that fear, the patient was worried about who will do dressing due to bad odor, who will take care of him in the school. Ideas, he knows that his health is becoming worse. Function, he was not able to walk, speak, swallow, and sleep also. During night time, it is very difficult for him to sleep, and expectation, he wants to die as soon as possible. Next one. Next one. Medication, he is on tab antacid 40 mg BD, Tramadol and paracetamol TID he is getting, tab Loras 1 mg HSOD, and tab morphine 5 mg every Q4H, and he is getting TID Metrogyl dressing and Q4H saline mouthwash continued. Main concern, patient was worried about his appearance, bad odor, his diet, is not able to take anything due to this bad odor. So continuous oozing was there, so irritation in the neck, everything. So that's why patient was depressed. Next one. Summary, a 64 years old man with CA buccal mucosa lives with his wife and their 3 sons. He wants to be pain-free or wish to die as early as possible. He wants to remove his NG tube, which is giving stress and pain to him. He feels better during his discharge. Discussion points. How can I help my patient about self-care? And how can I provide psychological support for my patient? Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Marlene.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody need any more clarification regarding this patient story? So otherwise, we can move on to the discussion points. I think let's discuss together. Give your suggestions in the chat box. We need to help this patient. So give some ideas and suggestions.
Yes, he know about his condition. He know about his condition. We gave we explain to the patient, and palliative nurse also we have. So they talk with the patient and explained about the dressing, and we call the relatives of that patient, because the daughter-in-law, they are not refused to do the dressing. So we gave the teaching to the son, one of his son. So he told he will do the dressing in his home, but we taught him how to do the dressing. Flagyl dressing we did that one. So to reduce the foul smelling and all, because that is the main concern about the patient. So we explained about that one. And we arranged a chaplaincy department to give some psychological support for that patient. And we thought about how to handle this situations, because in the home, if anything is there, immediately whom to contact, nearby any clinic is there, everything we asked, and gave orientation to the patient. So he feels he accept that condition. He accept that. After that only, when discharged also, he was a little bit okay. Okay, I can manage my dressing, I can do, I can get help from my son, like that and all. He understand that situation also.
Okay, very good. Anna? Sister Faustina said, previous is family counts, not previous.
So the wound is so visible that mainly their psychological trauma is much more, I feel, especially in the buccal mucosa cancer.
Yes.
So, I mean, patient, everyone is looking at them, you know, at the patient. He appears so different than normal. So isolation is a major problem in them.
Yes.
And it is smelling also. So I mean, many times it may happen their own family members, they may not turn up near him and can't eat, and so very bad situation. We see many these patients in our center also.
So what about his pain now, sister, right now?
Now pain was reduced, ma'am, because on admission he was getting Q4H tab morphine,
Okay.
but during discharge TID we gave, ma'am. But
Why?
after that we reduced that one, because he has the pain was reduced. We started that NG feeds also. On admission he has that nutrition was less, so he's not able to tolerate the pain, and it was very severe on that time. But after 10 to 14 days, that morphine we started, and continuously this NG feeds with the 1800 ml, started with the 1800 ml with 60 grams protein we increased. So after taking that, he feels the pain was little bit reduced. But we told, if the pain is continuously having, he can take Q4H, and in between PRN also he can take. We advise like that only and send, ma'am.
Okay, so we know that morphine will give only 3 to 4 hours action.
Yes.
That patients will get only 4 hours pain relief with the 1 dose of morphine. So
Yes,
better
yes.
you can, if possible, you can give a call and find out whether the patient is get adequate pain relief with the TID dose of morphine. If the patient
Okay,
is
ma'am.
not getting adequate pain relief, you can encourage the patient to take 4 hourly morphine.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
that will help to the patient for better pain relief.
Yes, ma'am, we'll do.
Okay. And this patient is having bad odor, right?
Yes, ma'am.
This is one of the major problem for these patients. For a fungating wound patient, this is one of the major problem. This is not distressing to the patient. This distressing also to the patient family members also.
Yes.
So usually the social isolation and family isolation will be there if there is a this type of symptoms there. So better you can all give the injection metronidazole dressings.
Yes, ma'am. Injection metrozole only we are giving, ma'am.
Oh, injection metronidazole.
Yes, ma'am. Injection metrozole.
So there is the chance of pocket formation inside the wound. So that's why that bad smell will be there. So better if you are using, you can continue with that.
Yes,
and another thing is nebulization with metronidazole. So you can take same metronidazole instead of while we nebulizing, we can use Asthalin or Budicort. Instead of that, you can take some injection metronidazole and that fumes you can give directly to the wound. Especially the patient is on the CA buccal mucosa. That will help to reduce the bad smell. But the thing is, in the home settings, we can't do that. But the patient is in hospital, you can do it.
This how many ml we need to give, ma'am?
5 to 10 ml. You can take a 5 to 10 ml. Yeah, that fumes if you will help to reduce the smell.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other idea? What about government support?
The patient is a retired military man, ma'am. So he got the fund for the. They are supporting, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah. And the son is a bank manager, so he also helping. Only thing nobody is staying near to them. That's the main reason he feels a little bit worry about himself.
Oh, okay. Any other points?
Prevention of dryness in mouth also should be taken care of.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yeah, that saline gargle he is taking, ma'am, Q4H. And whenever he wants, he allowed to take that saline gargle, ma'am. Any other thing instead of saline gargle, ma'am?
So here one that home remedy, you can take neem leaves, no?
Yes,
you can take neem leaves and boil it, and that water that is bitter in taste. But if the patient is able to swallow it, that will help help a lot. Definitely, that bad smell will comes down.
Okay.
We had a similar experience like that.
Thank you for your add-on points, ma'am.
Okay. And so how can the next question is, how can we provide psychological support to the patient? So how can we give? This patient is not able to communicate because, is it right, sister?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Not able to speak also.
Yes.
And so we gave some paper and pencil, ma'am. We explained to him anything if he needs, he just write here and give it to us. Then we can help you like according to your need. So this and all was not happened previously, but that's why I told no, ma'am. During discharge time, he was little bit good. So we also feel comfortable.
It's very good. Wow. Your summary says he wants to remove his nasogastric tube.
Yes, ma'am. NG tube he wants to remove. He don't like to have that NG tube. So we explained him after once the wound is healing. After that, you can will plan to remove slowly. So at present, you need this because if you are not able to swallow, and due to this bad smell, it is very difficult for you. So we'll keep this for a while. After once you feel better, then we will remove this one. Like that, we explain and.
Okay. Does he knows the prognosis of the wound?
Yes, ma'am. He told that previously it was very less, but I think nowadays it was increasing, like that and all. He expressed, ma'am.
Okay. Only thing we can do it here is you can listen their problems individually. So you can just listen their problems, physical problems, emotional problems, social problems, and spiritual problems also. So sometimes maybe because of inadequate that symptom control, the patients will irritate to remove the nasogastric. Why I'm putting the nasogastric tube like this? So I don't get any pain relief. I don't get any any relief so that's why they wants to remove the rights tube. So we need to find out the problems behind that. Why he wants to change the nasogastric tube. So
yes.
Yeah, and sometimes if there is a depression there, now he knows it's not going to heal. If there is a depression there, usually response like this. Okay, so we need to give take a proper assessment, good assessment for these patients. If you get a chance to meet the patient again, take a good assessment, and based on your assessment, you can give some suggestions.
Yes,
never give false hope to the patient. Okay,
yes, ma'am.
we know this wound is not going to heal.
Yes.
So day by day, that wound size will be increasing. Pain, sometimes these patients will develop two types of pains. Nociceptive pain and neuropathic pain will be there. Maybe that tumor will be compressing on the nerves or blood vessels. That time, the patients will experience neuropathic pain. And the direct exposure of dermis can cause the patients will develop nociceptive pain. And sometimes bleeding will be there. And again, we discussed already about the bad smell and exudate. lot of exudate will come out, this type of wound. So these all things will the patients will go to depression. So we need to assess the psychological parts also, psychological problems. And you can discuss with the patient, and after that you can discuss with the patient caregivers also. We know palliative care is not only for the patients, it's for the patient family also. So we need to explore their idea also, whether they have any difficulty to manage this patient. If there is any bleeding there, how they can manage in their home. So that all things we need to discuss it and plan accordingly. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
See, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Better you can try we can able to give better pain relief to the patient. And as I already said, you can call and find out whether the patient is getting adequate pain relief. And if they come again to the OPD, you can just go and sit with them and listen their problems.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Anna, do you want anything to add?
For prevention of maggots, no, he should sleep in a mosquito net because of the bad odor and plus the exudates, then the flies will be a problem.
Yes.
So sleeping in mosquito net should be advised.
It's very, very important point. It's a maggots prevention. It's usually the house flies are attracted with the that infected wounds. There is a chance that this is an open wound. Usually, if there is a chance to get a touch into the wound, that flies will touch into the wound, that lays many eggs. So after that, the result is maggots. So always they have to close the wound as much as possible. If they are not able to close it properly, they can use mosquito nets. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay, that important message you need to convey with the patient and family. Okay.
Yes.
And the another thing is, if there is a neuropathic pain there, they won't cover it properly because of the neuropathic pain. Sometimes the if there is a neuropathic pain there, if you apply, if you put on the dressing materials on the wound, the patients will develop neuropathic pain. Okay. So that time you can suggest use mosquito nets.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. And the another thing is local application of some pain medications. So anyway, next week we have a session on that, fungating wound management. That time we will discuss it more.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Any other points need?
I think she was mentioning that patient had a concern of nobody sitting with him.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, why? Is there any problems or any?
No, due to that smell, nobody is spending their times with him. So he wants that he needs somebody should be there for his answer, everything he's expecting, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Because of the smell, bad smell, nobody is willing to sit with him, right?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. The patient is on metronidazole, right?
Yes, ma'am. But during a discharge time, the smell was reduced, ma'am. So that's why the son told, okay, I will try to do the dressing like that and all, he explained.
Okay. If the smell is persisting, you can advise the neem leaves, that method. Okay. They can, if they can use a neem, boil it, they can take one or that 10 numbers of leaves and then boil it and that water as use as that mouthwash. That will help to reduce the smell. Okay. Anna, any other points?
Charcoal can be used in the room, which can absorb.
Yes.
And room
But this
freshener
is
can be used.
this is general ward, ma'am. So in the home we advise charcoal and we gave, but this in the ward it's difficult. This is a hall like that, a common area, no, ma'am.
Room freshener can be used.
I think Sister Merlin, you can use one or two pieces of charcoal in their bed. No, that is locally available. You can take one or two pieces of charcoal, no charcoal, and keep corner of the bed or under the bed. That will reduce the bad smell. And another thing is, if the patient is affordable, you can suggest the charcoal dressings. But the thing is too expensive. But if the patient is able to buy, you can suggest charcoal dressings. That will help to reduce the bad smell.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Plus the bleeding will take place, no? So they have to, I will cover the part with dark clothes. That is also there. Fungating wounds, no? They will bleed after some time. So
okay. So Kriba Anand said, maintain some social distance, but make sure that some or the other family members spend at least 10 to 15 minutes turnwise. Why did they maintain social distance?
Due to smell, I think.
So, due to smell.
Yes.
I think the smell is when they discharge from the hospital, the smell is subside, right?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Now it was reduced.
Reduced. Okay.
Yeah.
Patient should not feel neglected at home. Okay. So what Sister Merlin do is you can just give a call and find out whether his right now what is his condition and whether he is happy or he has any main concern, any other problems like that. You can just give a general call and find out that time that patient feel more happy. So
yes.
Okay. Okay. Can we wind up the session?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Anna, for the excellent presentation, and thank you, Merlin, for the presentation. So I have a request. When you present the patient story, try to present a patient story based on the session. Today, actually, we are going to be